Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. I'm your host, Jerron Harrington, back to it with another video. And today we are here to continue and start, for now, the final season of What If Bel Cranel Was Thor? Danmachi, The Last King, Season 3, Part 1. But as always, first and foremost, if you are a fan of the channel and everything else that we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcasting that has to come out now and in the future. So a little bit of explanation for the Danmachi Last King series. As you know, Season 4 of Danmachi is scheduled to be coming out this summer, sometime around mid to late July. Also, we have the fourth Thor movie in the MCU franchise, that being Thor Love and Thunder, that's going to be coming out around a similar time as well. And with my series on this channel, we have my version of the Multiverse of Madness, which is set to take place in just a few weeks' time. So, with this series, what exactly am I going to be doing? Well, for now, I am going to conclude Season 3, and after we do Season 3, that will lead into the Multiverse of Madness storyline. Coming out of Season 3, we will wait for the completion of Season 4, and after I go through Season 4, then there will be the movie Love and Thunder. So Danmachi is going to be going on a bit of a hiatus after Season 3. Similar to a few other series that I have on the channel, while some of them will end after the respective multiversal stories, there are a few that will be able to continue. However, I am going to be taking a break from those series since I've been doing the anime Marvel crossover storyline for over a year now. Going around this time last year, I started with What If Spider-Man Was in ReZero. Also, if you haven't, check out that series as well. And basically, we've just been building these multiverses from last year onward. So after the big crossover story is done, I'm going to be taking a break from, those type of stories simply because I have new things that I want to try, new stories that I want to make, so on and so forth. But for some older ones, I will return and come back to them in the future. Also, I have been putting it off for far too long, but I am going to be doing What If Tanjiro Had Venom, the movie Mugen Train, and that movie will lead into the multiversal crossover. So after that movie, then I'll cover Season 2 and so on and so forth. Some series will continue on, others will not. It's just trying to figure out where things line up. So that's just a little information to keep you updated on the series moving forward. But anyway, without further ado, we're going to get into today's video. So as always, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. On the 19th floor of the dungeon, Bel, along with his party in Welf, Lily, and Mikoto, were journeying through on another day's adventure. For Bel, everything would seem fine and as normal. That was until Bel came across someone hiding amongst the trees. It appeared to be a young girl. Although as Bel got closer to her, seeing that she was injured, he immediately rushed to help her to her defense. However, once he was able to examine her properly, Bel realized that the girl standing before him was indeed anything but human. She in fact was a monster known as a Volvere. As Belle got closer to her, her blue-like skin, her elongated and sharp nails, and her dark blue hair, Belle saw that she was like a monster like the others in the dungeon. As he heard another party rushing over, seeing that she was the one they were after. For Belle in this moment, he wasn't sure of what to do. From what he had always been told, the monsters were their enemies. But yet seeing her like this here and now, Belle couldn't help but feel a sense of caring, feeling as though this was someone he needed to protect. Without hesitation, he would take off his cloak and place it around the girl, giving off the appearance of her being just a regular scout like anyone else. When the other party that had been looking for her arrived, they saw only Belle and someone shrouded in the cloak next to him. Belle said that he was simply with his supporter. Recognizing him as an adventurer, they thought nothing of it and continued on in their search. Almost as if he wasn't really thinking much at all, Belle would take the monster girl back with him, back to his home and with the other members of their familia. This only brought protest from the others once they learned of the situation. Lily, of all of them, was especially worried. Welf and the others, even Makoto. Their first instinct was to simply kill the girl here and now, but Belle refused. For Lily, this only left her more anxious, for she knew what type of person Master Belle was. He was someone who was extremely caring and kind-hearted, maybe a little too kind-hearted for his own good. She warned that they were doing something very dangerous here. Monsters were always viewed as the enemy, and that even if this girl was capable of understanding, it didn't change who or what she was. Despite this, Belle was standing firm in his conviction, and he didn't plan to give her up. After thinking it over, Hestia decided to let the girl stay with them, and that they would give her a name. They decided with the name Wine. Wine would spend her times bonding with the members of the familia, and slowly but surely, they had each grown attached to her as well. Even Harume, while she wasn't an adventurer and just a caretaker around the mansion, she would look after Wine like a young sister. And as time progressed, it only made things more and more difficult. This was something that no one had ever seen before. The idea that the monsters were actually able to comprehend, that they could feel, that they could understand. This was a new development. Of course, though, Hestia, she knew a little more than what even she was telling. But if Wine was indeed what she thought she was, then did it mean that the gods made a terrible mistake? Could that have been true? As Belle and the others would go on trying to gain more intel on the situation, Belle would run into someone in a tavern while he had taken a break to get something to eat. "So, you are the one known as Gale Thunder." A man dressed in a cloak with long dark hair. He kept himself obscure enough as he sat across from the young hero. Yes, that's me. I'm, Belle Cranel. Nice to meet you. I'm sorry, I don't know your name. I go by many names, but you can call me Ikelos. Ikelos? Yes, Ikelos will suffice. Oh, nice to meet you, Mr. Ikelos. Are you an adventurer here? Oh, no, nothing like that. I'm just a man passing through. I must say, ever since I've come to this city, I've heard so much about you. I've heard that you possess the power of Thor, do you not? Oh, that. Well, it's not something I really like to brag about, but I mean, you could say that. Ah, would you mind if I see the weapon? The weapon? Oh. Bell would reach over to his side and pull out Mjolnir. As the cloaked figure looked upon it, a wave of nostalgia would hit him. Feelings of a past that he thought he had long since forgotten. Of memories gone by. I see. So you are indeed the one. Do tell me. It seems as though there is something that troubles you, my friend. Oh, it's nothing really. Nothing that you should concern yourself with. Now. I always like to hear about the needs of others. Go on. I can tell that there is something that troubles you. Well, to be honest, I can't say in full. I'm sorry, but I just can't. But what I can say is, I have a friend, someone in need, but she's different. She's very different. So much so that if people knew about her, even without ever truly getting to know her, she would be judged unfairly. I see. Quite the predicament. You wish to save this friend. I do. And I guess, judging from your circumstance, your friend is someone who would not be welcomed in the public eye, I take it. No, she wouldn't. Well, I don't know much about friendship. I can't really say I had any. But I can say this. I too come from a different place. But even still, I had family that was willing to look after and care for me. A brother in particular. Really? What happened? To be honest, I didn't know any better. I believed I knew everything. I resented my father, even though he wasn't my father. And I resented my brother and my mother. But when I think about it though, all they ever wanted was the best for me. So, all I can say to you is this. Regardless, do what is right and within your heart. I believe that that will lead you to what you need. Before Bell could thank him, the man had seemingly disappeared, leaving Bell alone in the tavern. In the meanwhile, as Bell and the others continued on investigating more about the 19th floor, as well as taking care of the young monster girl in the process, Bell would find himself being accompanied by unlikeliest of allies, one being an Aisha, a former member of the Ishtar familia, as well as Ryu Lion, who was a tavern girl at the Hostess of Fertility. As they made their way through the 19th floor, Bell and Welf would try to investigate where Bell had met Wine in the first place, hoping that they could find some clues. In the process, they would run into members of the Ikelos familia. They had recognized Bell from when they had been there before, and believed that he may know something about it. But in the end, they wouldn't be entirely sure. They turned to their god Ikelos, rather lazy to say the least, His familia did almost anything they wanted, and he didn't really stop them at all. Although he would get involved whenever he felt it suited him. A member of the Ikelos familia would turn to the god, asking for his assistance, to speak to Bel about the matter. After all, a god had the ability to tell if a human was lying, and Ikelos could use this to his advantage. As Bel made his way through the city, as he crossed into a back alleyway, having felt a bit dejected as he didn't find out anything else that day, he would be greeted by the god Ikelos. As Ikelos walked towards him, he saw that the boy carried Mjolnir by his side. So it was true. The power of Thor had been reawoken in the world. My. Just as if things couldn't have gotten more complicated. Ikelos would move to speak to Bel. Bel being shocked as he hadn't heard of the god Ikelos, or at least not much of him. As Ikelos approached, he would speak to Bel and ask if he knew anything about a monster girl, or about monsters capable of human speech. Bel tried to put on a brave face, although Ikelos could tell that there was something conflicting the boy. At the same time, there was also something else that was strange about him. No matter what Bel said, Ikelos could not tell if the boy was lying or not. Either Bel was telling the truth, or he was a really good liar. But no human could lie to a god, and Bel was not a god. So how was he able to do this? He couldn't figure out any further, as Hermes would appear out of nowhere, stopping Ikelos from interrogating Bel any further. He allowed him to leave, as Hermes and Ikelos would have a chat. They talked about some rumor going around Aurario, something akin to that of monster trafficking. Hermes warned that it was up to the gods to keep their familias in check. However, Ikelos explained that things, whether Hermes suspected or not, had gotten far beyond even his control. In the end of the day, even if he tried to show some authority, even if he got killed and sent back to heaven, nothing would change. Whatever vices that they chose to indulge in on their own time, they'd continue to do it with or without his knowledge or presence. Of course, this left Hermes in a jam. He and his familia had been investigating the situation also to try to put a stop to it. And things weren't really much better at the Hestia familia. Wine had overheard the others talking as she waited for Bel to come home. Hearing what Lily and the others said, knowing that in the end it was dangerous for her to stay here. Feeling as though she had nowhere to go, Wine would try to look for Bel as soon as she could. However, in the process, she would end up revealing herself, showing off her true monster form, as she had attempted to save a child. Instead, she only found herself ridiculed and attacked. Thankfully, Lily, using her ability in transformation, was able to move in and save her without being detected. They found themselves hiding in the old church that the Hestia familia used to live in, where they would meet with the goddess Hestia and Bel. They would have to move and come up with their next plan. Bel would go to the guild as he met with the members, meeting with his handler and the head guild expert in Iron. He would explain the situation at hand to her. She didn't need a full explanation to get the gist of what had happened. She would look to Bel and sternly warn him that if there was a mission, one that she wasn't giving him, it would be to take that girl to the 20th floor. That would be the safest place for her to be. Knowing what he needed to do, Bell and his party would set off at once with wine. They had managed to make their way to the 20th floor. In the process, they would find themselves being attacked by monsters. However, these monsters weren't like any that he had ever met before. They were actually capable of speech, capable of thought, and of strategy. As they fought against the monsters, Bell would stop and explain their situation. Of course, everyone stayed on their guard, unsure of what was to happen next. That was until the leader of the talking monsters would arrive. Someone that Bell did not recognize at all. But for this leader, when he saw that weapon, he recognized it all too well. He was a tall monster, to say the least. His skin seemed to be something made out of stone, a dark but shimmering blue. He looked as though he were older than any of the monsters that Bell had ever seen in the dungeon, like a monster had existed for centuries. As the towering, almost giant monster looked down at Bell, he observed him, sensing his energies. As he looked closely, he would speak. That weapon is Mjolnir, used by the god of thunder himself, Thor. Yes, it is. You know about Thor? You could say that. I knew Thor long before anyone else. He was a good friend of mine. Welf and the others would look at him confused. The idea that a monster was actually friends with Thor, the actual god of thunder, that didn't even make any sense. The monster would introduce himself as Korg, the leader of the Xenos. Korg revealed that the Xenos were something different. They weren't human, but to say that they were monsters, well, that wasn't really the case either. You could say that they were the twilight, the bridge between man and monster. As Korg told the other Xenos to stand down, Bell and the other members of the Hestia familia would find the secret hiding place of the Xenos. As they were there, they would meet and discuss the situation at hand. Bell would explain how he found Wine and how they had taken her into their care, but that now things were getting too dangerous and that she couldn't stay with them. They had hoped that they could find a safe place in the dungeons for her to be hidden away. Understanding the plight, Korg would agree to take her into the Xenos, and that he could protect and keep her safe. But in the meanwhile, he wanted to know more. He wanted to know more about Bell, about how Thor's weapon got into his possession. Bell explained the events and how he had found Mjolnir, but that this Mjolnir was probably different from the one he remembered. Korg would explain that Thor did use something different with Mjolnir during the Great War 500 years ago, but all the same, for him to actually have the weapon now, despite the fact that Thor was presumed to have died in his fight against Gorr the God Butcher, this only left more questions than answers. You see, during the events of the war of 500 years ago, it was Gorr the God Butcher who summoned his horde of monsters to attack the earth. The Xenos, the humans, and the gods all fought together as one. But for some reason, somewhere along the line, the humans turned on the Xenos, and so did the gods seemingly. They were branded as traitors, treacherous. Without Thor or anyone else to speak on their behalf, they had no choice but to hide away in the dungeons, which were quite bigger than one might expect. If one knew the right places, hiding out wouldn't be as difficult as you might think. In Wine's case, there were a few monsters who were influenced from years of fighting against both the Xenos and the humans. Some had evolved, while others did not. All the same, they didn't know what else they could do now. They weren't sure of where else they could go. In the meanwhile, Hestia had met with another one of the gods, Oranos, who had revealed to her that among all of the gods, only he and Ganesha knew of the existence of the Xenos. And he had revealed that it had been his intentions to wait for the next wielder of the power of Thor to arrive into this world, to hopefully undo the harm that had been done between both the Xenos and the humans. Hestia understood this, but even she did not fully understand why the humans and the Xenos were fighting in the first place. Of course, Hestia was not involved in the war itself, so she did not fully understand the situation. The only thing that she knew was that a decree had been declared that the Xenos had been traitors, but from where it had come from, no one knew in the first place. And yet now it seemed as though the Xenos were making their return. Bel had unlocked the power of Thor, and his power had been brought back into the world once again. All these events, everything that was taking place, it seemed like it couldn't be a coincidence. Like this was something that was always meant to happen. But for now, there was nothing that she could do, except hope and trust in Bel and the others. Eventually, it came time for Bel to leave, to return back to the surface. Bel would say goodbye to Wine and to the other members of the Xenos clan. Korg would wish Bel safety and would hope that he would live up to being like the Thor that he had once known. As Bel and the others made their way, they would leave and return home, while Korg would lead the Xenos to a new home, another hideout where they could be safe for some time. However, before they had a chance to get there, they would be stopped, as members of the Ikelos familia had now finally caught up to them. Something that Korg had feared was now coming to light. All of his efforts to keep his fellow Xenos safe, now seemingly brought to ruin. The Xenos would prepare for battle against the Ikelos familia, as the duel on the 19th floor would get underway. This concludes What If Bel Cranel Was Thor? Danmachi, The Last King, Season 3, Part 1. As always, if you enjoyed today's video and everything else that we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcasting that's to come out now and in the future. Stay tuned for tomorrow's video as we continue Konosuba, Mystic Rangers of Misfortune, based on the Heroes of the Morphin Grid series, Part 2. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with PowerCore Productions and Podcastings, signing off, and I'll see you next time.